Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Talking Cryptocurrency Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Rigden. On this episode, I'm talking to Rashid Aziz of FlareAgent. FlareAgent is bringing AI and blockchain technology to real estate. If you've ever bought a house, you'll know that process is a bit antiquated. Tons of people need to be involved, and there's paperwork everywhere. It's a big old mess. Luckily, FlareAgent is trying to bring that process into the 21st century. But before we go to that interview, I have a quick message. Are you a founder of a cryptocurrency or blockchain company? Or maybe you're a developer. Are you looking for media coverage? Well, why not be a guest on the show? Maybe you could be my next guest. I'm always looking for projects to cover. I don't charge anything for these interviews. You just need to be interesting and be able to talk about a project for about 15 to 20 minutes. Just go to jasonrigden.com/guest and fill out the contact form. Give me your name, your email, and tell me what you'd like to talk about. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. This is a great chance to promote your project and educate the public. I hope to hear from you soon. Hello, and I am here with Rashid Aziz from FlareAgent. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
So could you tell me a little bit about the problem that you're trying to solve with FlareAgent?
Sure. So it actually starts, basically the FlareAgent is about real estate, right? And the issue begins with something a little bit simpler, and that being that real estate transactions. So the issue is that a real estate transaction, which is basically buying or selling of a home, and this can be either like a rental, or it can be a sale, it can be residential, commercial. The core issue revolves around these transactions taking an extremely long time. So like a transaction can take like up to a month, sometimes 2 months, right? And the core reason is because there are so many different parties involved, right? So you have the person that's buying, the person that's selling, and each of them have a representative, like a real estate agent. So there's a buyer agent, there's a seller's agent. Each of them have a broker, and then there's an attorney in there somewhere. There's people who do inspections in there. There's like lawyers, and there's like at the end there's title companies, and at the end of the day, one person is buying, one person is selling, but there still ends up being like almost like 10 different parties involved in the transaction.
Yeah, it buying and selling houses is a whole thing. So how does your company solve this problem?
Sure. And so the beginning of FlareAgent actually comes a couple years ago when a real estate company in Texas approached me, and they were like, hey, our transactions are taking way too long, and email sucks, and Excel is the dumbest thing ever, so help us fix it. And so I built a really simple platform, basically automating a lot of the things that they were doing manually, so they didn't have to print things anymore, or upload things, or scan things, or everything was online on the cloud. And some of the things that they were doing manually were automated, right? So every time a transaction was submitted, it would automatically be sent to the managers, and then automatically be sent to the brokers, and the signature would be added automatically. And then a lot of these things were sort of done automatically, right? And then so now, as sort of hire more people, and we're sort of reevaluating the company and our approach, there's two things we're thinking about. Number one, thinking about what is the present of real estate, the market, and how can we solve some of the problems that are existing, right? And that goes on to us creating solutions that sort of involve technologies like AI and machine learning to sort of optimize the workflow of these agents and of all these people involved, right? And then things get more interesting when we started thinking about, okay, where is real estate going to be in 5 to 10 years, right? What is the future of the real estate industry? And thinking about that is when we started getting into things like blockchain, right? Because thinking about the idea of real estate and these transactions happening, and even things like, for example, like MLS records, or basically records of real estate properties on these databases, which are controlled by private entities, but they're also public information. And so a lot of companies in San Francisco and all over the US are thinking about how they can use blockchain technology to sort of change the way real estate is done, right? So you have ubiquity.com, and they're doing something with putting, making a universal database of real estate properties on the blockchain. And there's a company called Harbor in San Francisco that's doing investment. Property.com is also doing blockchain investment on real estate. And so a lot of these, like we noticed that a lot of these companies are thinking about blockchain and real estate. And so that's sort of where we come in. And so the idea is that, hey, if blockchain, basically, if you have the transaction and there are so many middlemen involved, right, the entire idea of blockchain revolves around removing some of these middlemen, right, and sort of automating a lot of these processes that are being done manually. And so that's when we started thinking about, okay, perhaps we can sort of take these real estate transactions and then put them and using blockchain technology and things like smart contracts, it can basically create a workflow where these transactions can have a lot less middlemen involved, right? More transparency, more trust, and also take a lot less time because all other things can be automated. And that's sort of like the direction we're headed in.
Okay. So you'd be able to speed up those real estate transactions quite a bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And so what have been some of the challenges of trying to solve this problem?
I think actually the biggest challenge, well, number one, the biggest challenge when it comes to real estate tech in general, and the reason that there have been so few real estate tech companies, even though real estate is the world's biggest market, is that, for example, like the majority of real estate agents are over the age of 50 and have been doing things a certain way for like most of their lives, right? So for example, if most agents have been doing things by paper for like 20, 30 years. And there's no way that they are, and like for them, it's been like the most difficult thing trying to adopt like digital signatures. And even if you mention the word blockchain, they're like, just stop, like please stop. Odds were more than enough. Don't tell me about blockchain or don't tell me about ICO, like any of that crap, right? And so the first barrier that we're sort of trying to solve is that how do we increase adoption, or how do we make software that is user friendly enough that people who are like the vast majority of the market is not really looking for technology, and they're not really like they're not like young enough, or they're not like hip, like I guess like they're not looking forward to like using new technology. Like they're already having a very tough time using technology as it is, and they're not looking for new things to learn. Right? Email was already enough for them.
Yeah.
That's sort of like the first barrier of entry, right? The second barrier of entry, which is something that, so this is something that we're facing right now, right? Like right now, as we like redesign our software and as we rebuild our products, something that we're facing right now that we have to make sure that our thing is not just user friendly, but like incredibly user friendly, where even if someone who hates using email, they can still enjoy using our platform. It needs to be that simple, right? And this is something that we're facing right now, right? Down the road, the other thing that we anticipate, like the other major problem we anticipate facing is that these real estate companies have the same issue, right? They've been doing things for 50 years or for 20 years a certain way, and they don't want to sort of like for anytime you have an enterprise company, like it's tough for them to like move to another platform just because they have all the data on a certain platform, right? And so that migration process can be such a big headache. And so a lot of these, we also anticipate like a lot of these real estate companies, number one, like not realizing what's the importance of blockchain and why should they move to a blockchain, and how is that going to be important, and how much money or how much time is it going to take for that migration process, right? So that transfer of basically like, also another thing is that if one, it's kind of like that catch-22 where like in order for one company to use it, they have to know that other companies are using it, but it's also like vice versa, right? So it's all like if you're creating a platform, you have to get like everybody using it at once, else it doesn't really work that way.
Yeah, it's kind of like how email. Like
exactly.
Email doesn't really work if people don't have email.
Yeah. And so the same way, like we can't create a universal real estate platform unless everybody's on it. And the core problem that we're trying to solve is going to end up being our biggest challenge. The core problem being there's so many different parties, which now means that we're not just getting one sort of party or one sort of area involved. We have to get like several areas involved. We have to get the banks and like the attorneys and the real estate agents and the brokers and the consumers, right? All these different sectors. We have to get them all on the platform. And unless they're not, then it's going to be like tough to actually like get anywhere.
Yeah, it seems like if an agent had the ability to close real estate deals faster, they'd have a big competitive advantage.
Yeah. And that sort of is our approach, right? Approach is, okay, we have this huge market and there's so many different sectors. So what is the best way to penetrate such a huge market? And so what we've been thinking about is, hey, it seems like that all these, even though there's like 10 different parties, all the parties seem to converge at the broker, right? So like all the agents and the insurance companies and mortgage companies, they all sort of converge at the broker, right? And so if you can get the broker on board, then you automatically get all the agents on board. If you can get the agents on board, you automatically get the consumers on board. If you have all these three on board, it's very easy to get the attorneys and the mortgage companies on board, right? And so we're hoping that like by capturing like the first sector of the market, like the brokers and the real estate agencies, that's sort of going to allow us to sort of establish a really strong foundation and build sort of a way for us to sort of expand into like these further markets.
Mm-hmm. So what are your plans for the future? Do you have any working prototypes right now, or is it still in the design stage?
Yeah, so we do have a working prototype. We've been testing it out with this company in Texas, and we have like over 200 agents already using it. We've already processed over 1,400 transactions on it.
Wow.
And so we've been using that as like a test, as like a pilot, and it's been doing really well. Now that we've moved to New York City, we're also speaking to some companies here in New York to sort of speak to them and sort of get them up and running. Once we have some companies here in New York, then we're gonna sort of like rebuild a platform. Like the next thing, like from a dev perspective, the next thing to do is like build some mobile applications, something that we don't have, and sort of like refine the platform a little bit more. And over the next couple months, we'll be raising some seed funding. So hopefully that goes well, and we'll sort of expand from there.
So do you see the future as actually being able to make the deal with just like cell phones or a laptop and without all this paper?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I think that actually things like cell phones and I think first of all, getting rid of paper is like the very first goal, right? And making it so that you can use your laptop or whatever. I do think that the future is mobile though, right? Like most internet traffic comes through mobile devices, right? And I think iPads and phones are going to be a huge thing, right? So if you can just go on your phone and sort of like see the like how far along the transaction is and who hasn't signed a document yet, all that sort of stuff can be done on the phone. And we're sort of hoping that as agents become more like mobile and as they travel around and they just have their iPad, their laptop on them, they can connect their entire business from like an app.
So are you tying into any of the blockchain projects that have been trying to categorize or organize like deeds and stuff? Deeds and titles?
Yeah, and that sort of the thing is that like it goes back to the problem of a lot of real estate companies or the majority of real estate companies are having a difficulty sort of using some of these softwares, right? Like using some of these deed softwares or whatever, right? And there's also no like one company that we know for sure is no one standard yet. And so the idea is if we can, number one, first focus our efforts on getting as many brokers on our platform as possible, right? And then at the same time, if we build a platform on sort of a blockchain sort of foundation, a blockchain structure, what we can do is down the road, whenever one of these companies becomes successful or popular, then it'd be very easy for us to integrate with them in the future.
Interesting. Well, that's very interesting. Yeah. Would this work with commercial real estate, or are they kind of a little bit different?
I can work with either one. And actually what we're trying to do is like one of the core features of our platform that we're trying to rebuild is this thing called intelligent workflows, which basically allows the company to adapt the software to how the company works. And that's going to allow the agencies, regardless, like basically to handle transactions that are like residential, commercial, sales, rentals, like any kind of transaction really.
Okay, that's very good. Yeah. Huh. Well, is there anything that maybe I missed that I should have asked you about?
I don't know. I can't think of anything on the top of my head.
Okay. Well, I think you gave a really good introduction to your company, your project, and how you're trying to change the way real estate is really done. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason.
All right. Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Rashid, for coming on the show and introducing us to FlareAgent. Companies like yours are really going to revolutionize the real estate industry. AI and the blockchain are going to disrupt everything, and you folks are right there on the front lines. Links are in the show notes. Go to the website, check them out, and get a glimpse of the future of real estate. Maybe someday, FlareAgent will help you buy your next home, and then you'll look back and you'll wonder why it was so hard to do it back in the day. I'd like to remind you to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and maybe share the show on social media. You've been listening to the Talking Cryptocurrency podcast. My name is Jason Rigden, and I've been your host. Thanks again for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a great day.